I'm going to analyze the snatch pull of three lifters, Kaleb Whitby, Kevin Cornell, and Jon North. Incidentally, that is in order from least to most efficient. By what I mean by efficient, I mean how much they can snatch compared to how much they can squat. Here's Kaleb Whitby, and as you can see, he has a classic S pull with a couple of problems, and we'll discuss those problems as we look at it in slow motion. Here's a moment of bar separation from the ground. You'll notice that his shoulders are pretty much vertical over the bar. Hips are just a little above the knee. Overall, pretty good start position. Here's Kaleb with the initiation of the second pull. You'll notice that he swept the bar in a little bit off the floor, got his knees out of the way. But at the top of that first pull, he came up on his toes. And as he started coming up on his toes too early, that pushed his hips quite a bit forward. You'll notice that his hips have moved forward. If you go back and replay that segment, his hips have moved forward quite significantly, and so now that his balance is a little bit farther forward on his foot than he wants, and he's up on his toes. Both of those things are a flaw, and it's cutting down on how much weight he can lift. This is the top of Kaleb's extension. Not really bad looking place to be right there, but you'll notice that the bar at this point is well beyond a vertical line drawn straight up from the start position. It's just too far forward. And that's caused by him being too far forward when the bar was at his hip. The bar is going to move forward a little bit as you begin that, or as you execute the final extension. And if your hips are too far forward, at the start of that final extension, the bar is going to be too far forward at the end of it. Here's his catch position. You'll notice that he's up on his toes and that a significant portion of the lift took place well in front of the vertical line drawn up from the starting position. One thing that I've noticed time and again is when you spend too much time on your toes during the pull, you're way more likely to go to your toes during the catch. Even if the bar's not forward, you just tend to not want to, if the heel's not down during the pull, you tend to not want to put the heel down during the catch. Obviously, this was a made lift, but there's two or three things there that he could do differently to really increase the amount of weight he snatches. This is Kevin Cornell. I think this is a little bit better pull than Kaleb did, but you'll notice that the bar went forward a little off the floor and does go in front of the vertical line drawn up from the start during the final extension. Here's Kevin at the moment of separation from the floor. You'll notice that his shoulders are a little bit out in front of the bar while Kaleb's were vertical over the bar, but his hips are in about the same place. You notice that Kevin didn't do a very good job of pushing his knees back right off the floor, so the bar was forced to go out around his knees just a little bit, but he does scoop the bar back pretty well once the bar gets over his knees. This position right here is pretty good, shoulders vertical over the bar. His weight is still back on his heels are still on the ground. This is a point immediately before he begins the final extension. This is Kevin at the top of his extension. At the very next frame, he'll be going down. This is not a bad position right here. This is pretty good. His shoulders and feet are both slightly behind his hips, not quite fully extended on the knee joint. Overall, not too bad there. You can see other than that pushing the bar forward initially on pulling up from the floor, it's a pretty good lift. But because he didn't sweep the bar backwards right away, he let it get out in front just a little, you can see that his hips weren't quite as far back as he needed them to be at the initiation of the final extension, and we've got some of that lift taking place forward from the vertical line drawn from the start position. Not a bad lift for sure, probably not quite ideal. Here's Jon North. You notice that with him, the whole pull stays behind the vertical line drawn from the start. Not a lot of horizontal movement, but he gets it going back straight off the floor and then doesn't bump it forward all that much on top. This is Jon at the moment of bar separation from the floor. You'll notice he's a little different than the other two, as his shoulders are actually behind the bar and his hips are actually slightly below his knees. You notice that during that pull, Jon put his shoulders significantly more forward of the bar than either of the other two lifters. As the bar came past his knee, his shoulders were significantly forward of the bar. And you'll also notice that at this position, he's still on his heels, and the bar is significantly further rearward than it was with Kaleb, and a little further rearward than it was with Kevin. Here's Jon at the very top of his pull. The very next frame, he'll be going down. You notice that his shoulders are a little bit more behind the bar at the top of the pole than the other two. You'll notice that the horizontal deflection of the bar is quite a bit less than Kaleb, probably about the same as with Kevin, but the bar never goes out in front of the vertical line drawn up from the start position. I think that the most telling thing is where the bar is when the lifter has the bar at the hip at the very initiation of the final extension. You see with Kaleb here, he's already on his toes. His balance is shifted forward to his toes. His shoulders are significantly behind the bar. And you can just see that everything is a little forward. He has the least rearward movement of the bar of the three of them during the first pull. You can see that with Kevin, the bar's gone a little more rearward. He still has his heels on the ground. His shoulders are vertical above the bar. That's definitely not a bad position. But you can see that of the three, Jon has moved the bar backwards the most. He has his weight more rearward on his heels. You can see that the bar is actually pretty much straight over his heels, not over the middle part of his foot. And because of this, and this little difference in position, Jon back squats about 15-20 kilos less than either Kaleb or Kevin, yet he snatches 16 kilos more because he puts himself in a much more efficient position to deliver a ton of power at that point of final extension without deflecting the bar as much as either of the others. His bar path from the final extension to the catch is actually straighter. It's narrower from a horizontal perspective. So it's more power, a straighter bar path, easier to control bar, and it equates to a bigger snatch.